Hello, it's March the 1st, happy St David's Day, and for me it's the start of the growing year. I get rid of my thick winter gloves, put on my blue gloves to protect my hands and start sowing seeds. And this year I'm going to ditch growing in modules, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a very simple seed bed. So I'm in the greenhouse, which has got several panes of glass missing in it, so isn't quite open to the elements, but it nearly is. So you could also do this straight out into your garden. And all you want to do is create a space where the soil is quite fine and will be a nice place for your seeds to start off in. Now, this particular bed has been Monty's favourite place to use whenever it's been raining, and he has done quite a lot of cat pooping in here, so I have gone through it with a rake and made sure that anything that I wouldn't want in the bed is no longer in there. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you're wearing gloves, that you don't touch your face afterwards. In fact, I've written a blog post about how to deter cats from pooping in your garden. I'll leave a link on the screen and in the information below. So I have got here a pallet collar, which they're relatively cheap to buy. You could also just use 4 pieces of wood screwed together. You could use a cardboard box. You could use a plastic tray, the sort of thing that your groceries get delivered in. You just want a container that will hold some compost. And you can use homemade compost. You can use soil from the garden that you've gone through and taken all the big sticks out of and the stones out of. You can use a bought-in compost. Whatever growing medium you have got, you can use in it. And all you need to do is just level it off. Now, this has been very, apart from where Monty's been in it, it's been very dry. So I'm actually going to bring lots and lots of water through, and I'm going to rejuvenate this soil and make it usable once more. And I got this tip from Hugh Richards, who did a video about rejuvenating soil that has got very, very dry. And all you need to do is wet the soil and give it a chance to soak in and rake it over and then repeat. Now, when Hugh did it, he used a nice rose on the on the spout of his watering can. I don't have a rose, so unfortunately it has to go in a big stream, but the effect is the same. And then I'm going to rake it to mix the water in. I'm going to have to do this repeatedly, and it's going to take quite a while, so we'll come back when this is done. Well, I think this is ready now. It's damp but not absolutely waterlogged. I'm quite pleased with how that's looking. If you're making one from scratch with new compost, give it a good water and then leave that to settle in for a few hours, because you want the soil to be moist. You want to put your seeds onto damp compost, but you don't want it waterlogged. And the reason for putting the seeds onto damp compost is that they then don't need watering in, and there's less chance that you're going to wash those seeds all over the place, because you're going to be sowing here in rows, and it's much easier when it comes to thinning them out and replanting them out in the garden if they're grown in fairly neat rows and haven't all got confused and mixed up together. There are several tools that you can use to help you make some straight lines for putting your seeds in. You can use something like a hand fork or trowel. You can use your fingers, which is what I use on a very regular basis. You can use a stick, and these rows are called drills. And if you wanted to, you could use your rake to make a very wide drill, either that way or with it on its end. I'm not going to have a very wide drill like that. I'm just going to use my hands to make some rows. The other thing that's really important before you start is to have some plant labels. Tanya over at Lovely Greens posted a video this week about making some really nice plant labels using recycled materials and chalk paint. I'll leave a link to her video for you to have a look at that. Start of the year, I'm really good about labelling all the seeds that are going into trays and into small pots, and also the ones that I direct sow into the garden. A bit later in the year, as things get busier, this is my labelling. I just place a stick in the ground to show me that I've sown in a row. So I put one stick at this end and one at the far end. And I have no idea what I've sown here. So make sure you've got your labels and a pen to be able to write them, and then you can start sowing. I'm starting with spinach seeds, so I've taken the top off the packet, and then I put them into my hand rather than trying to sprinkle from the packet. I put the seeds in my hand. I've got the packet between my fingers there to seal it, and then because spinach is quite a large seed, I can actually sow them individually into the drill. Now the finer the seeds are, the more difficult it is to do them individually, in which case I grab a couple between my fingers and thumb and sprinkle them like that. And if they're exceptionally fine seeds, you can mix them with a little sand, which will allow you to see where you've put your seeds and will help you to sow them more evenly. So there we go, my first row of seeds for 2021 are some spinach. I now need to label them. So here's a label that has previously been used for squash. I can just rub that off there, try and make sure the label is dry, and use my marker pen. And the other thing that I like to do is I like to write the date that I've sown them, because that gives me some idea how long they're likely to take to germinate next time round. And I also put the label at the far end over there so that when I walk into the greenhouse I can read the label straight away. Once my label is in, then I flick the soil back over the seeds to cover them up. I don't cover them up until after the label has been put in. Once I start using my seed bed, I need to cover it over to make sure that Monty and other cats in the neighbourhood don't come back and use it as a toilet. And so what I do is I have panels of netting. They happen to be framed because we had them for chicken housing. And I literally just lay that flat not onto the soil, but onto the frame of the bed, so it's raised away from the soil. So if the cats walk on it, they can't feel the soil under their feet, and they also can't dig in it.